This video is sponsored by MUBI. Mahjong is one of those household games in East and Southeast Asia, like Hanafuda in Japan or backgammon in Europe and the Middle East. In other words, if you play it actively, you are either old or you are young, but people laugh at you for having an old man hobby. Jokes aside, Mahjong is notoriously complicated.
If I cheat, and I get like one of those free sets to the side, right? Does it mean that if I have 4 cheese and 1 pair of 2, does that make it 10 pie?
Yes.
This is why it is such a bossy move for Crazy Riichi Asians to build its climax around a game of Mahjong without explaining the game at all. Sure, you can piece things together by context.
My mom taught me how to play.
But without knowing the rules and cultural implications, I'd say you're missing half the story.
Only a fool falls for winning hand.
You know, I was never a big fan of Crazy Riichi Asians. I was just happy that minority actors got more opportunities. But over the years, I've come to appreciate it more. Its modernized Chinese aesthetics and its story about generational friction are all a bit more ahead of their time than I gave it credit for. So I think it is time I gave this movie the proper respect. Let's talk about Mahjong and explain to you why its usage in Crazy Riichi Asians is more clever than it seems. First, the cultural context. The history of Mahjong is as complicated as the game itself. Indeed, we don't really know where Mahjong came from. It is subject to much scholarly debate. In one story, a Qing Dynasty British consul wrote about his obsession with Mahjong when he was in China. In 1861, he wrote, "It's not merely a game, but a fine medium through which to socialize." Indeed, this is what Mahjong really is to most people, a means to socialize. In these Republic-era paintings, you can see the characters often aren't looking at the game, but at each other. The game is secondary to the conversation. This is why whenever you see a Mahjong scene in a movie, it is almost always a scene about gossips.
那可不就是吗?
These days, however, Mahjong is no longer as popular as before. Mass entertainment had become more readily available, causing Mahjong to lose some of its appeals. Additionally, Mahjong has always been a gambling game, which is not morally righteous in Chinese beliefs. This is why a lot of Chinese youths today don't actually know how to play Mahjong, and our elders love that because it means we'll lose money to them. Because of this context, a very specific cinematic trope emerged.
I realized for the first time they wanted me to take my mother's place.
In this trope, Mahjong is seen as the domain of older generations. When a young character joins in, they are almost always going out of their ways to bond with their elders. Sometimes they intentionally lose to the elders as a way to gain favor.
睇下會唔會自摸？
快點！哎呀，真係2萬喎！自摸！
But if they win,
不好意思，我又胡了。
it will be perceived as a daring, if not outright disrespectful way to establish their dominance over the elders. Keep that in mind, we'll come back to it. Oh, am I excited to talk about MUBI, because they have a lot of movies I want to recommend. How can I resist? It's a streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema from around the globe. It's right up my alley. The easy choice is Decision to Leave, which is one of my favorite films from last year from Korean director Park Chan-wook. My personal recommendation, however, oh boy, where do I begin? From China, there is A Touch of Sin by Jia Zhangke, one of the best indie films from China in the 2010s. From Norway, there's Oslo, August 31st, an intimate film that reignited my love for New Wave cinema. And from the Philippines, there is a whole catalog of films by Lav Diaz, one of the most renowned Filipino filmmakers. That's the great thing about MUBI. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, everything is curated for its quality and cultural relevance, kind of like an international film festival. It is the only streaming service that I trust enough to just pop on a random movie and have a good time. If you're interested, you can try MUBI free for 30 days at mubi.com/accentecinema. That's mubi.com/accentecinema for a whole month of great cinema. Explore the beauty of films from around the world anytime, anywhere. Check out the link below and give MUBI a try. Now, let's dive right into Crazy Riichi Asians, and I'll explain the rules as we go. A quick recap. Rachel is an Asian American game theorist professor who grew up with a single mother in a poor family. She's been dating Eleanor's son, who's set to inherit enormous fortune from his billionaire family. Eleanor, however, does not like Rachel.
You will never be enough.
After Rachel's boyfriend proposed to her, promising to leave his family behind, Rachel caused Eleanor to negotiate over a Mahjong table, thus commenced the climactic game. It gets interesting right from the beginning. To start, Eleanor rolls for initiative, making her the first dealer. In Mahjong, the first dealer's seat is called the East. Rachel, sitting across from Eleanor, is thus the West. You see what they did there?
You're a foreigner, American, and all Americans think about is their own happiness.
The game begins with each player taking 13 tiles, forming their hands. The goal is to create a winning hand which consists of 14 tiles with exactly one matching pair. The rest have to be matching triplets and all 3 number tiles that are in sequence. Players take turns drawing new tiles. They can choose to discard a new tile or keep it and discard one from their hand. One tile at a time, each player builds towards a winning hand. Since discarded tiles are seen by everyone, you can deduce what tiles each player wants. And that's where the strategy comes in. More on that in a bit. Side note, Mahjong rules differ greatly from region to region. We are only going over the relevant and most basic rules here. That is, assuming both players are only playing for the quickest win with no regards for points. Because, let's be honest, neither of them are actually here to play proper Mahjong. Anyway, beyond drawing tiles, there is another way to build towards victory.
Oh.
Here, Eleanor claims Rachel's discarded tile for her own. Yep, that's a thing. When an opponent discards a tile and you can use that tile to make a triplet, you can call Pong and claim the tile for yourself. There are also other ways to claim discarded tiles too, but no other variations happen in this scene, so that's not important right now. Eleanor taking a tile from Rachel is certainly an assertive move, but take a closer look. Rachel discarded a 9 of dots, which someone else already discarded one in previous rounds. Since no one claimed that one, Rachel knows it is a safe play. Remember, she's a game theorist professor, she knows what she's doing. Now, from Eleanor's perspective, things get interesting. There are a few possible explanations. One possible scenario is that Eleanor skipped over the first 9 of dots to keep her hand concealed, as winning with a fully concealed hand gives more points. After the other 9 of dots was tossed, she either thought her concealed hand was no longer viable, or more likely, she decided to throw away her own hand just to assert her dominance over Rachel. She doesn't need to win, she just wants Rachel to lose, at least emotionally.
So Curtis wasn't playing to win, he was playing not to lose.
The game then continues and we have a time skip. Rachel draws an 8 of bamboo. At this point, her hand looks like this, which means she won. Knowing this, she said,
Well, he proposed to me yesterday.
This line might as well be Rachel calling a win. But then she discards her winning tile, which allows Eleanor to claim it. And here is where the metaphor gets real juicy. There are 2 things going on with this one decision. The first thing is the tile she drew that led to her unclaimed victory, an 8 of bamboo. 8 is a lucky number in Chinese culture because it sounds similar to the word fortune. It is the reason why the 2008 Beijing Olympics started at such a specific time. Through her self-reliance, claiming no one else's discarded tiles, Rachel lucks herself into a fortune. Her boyfriend. She had won. Her boyfriend proposed.
Don't worry, I turned him down.
But she discarded her chance to get rich and give it to Eleanor who, of course, wants the same thing. Her son, and Rachel knows that. So Eleanor claims a discarded tile and wins, a move that the film established to be an option. See, this movie has proper setups and payoffs. It's better than you think. By the way, Eleanor's hand looks completely different now. No idea what happened, probably just a continuity issue. But what's most important is By losing to her intentionally, Rachel demonstrates that this quote-unquote American girl understands this obscure Mahjong manner in Chinese culture. This game was her way of bonding with her, having a conversation, gaining a favor from Eleanor. When she said,
My mom taught me how to play.
it wasn't just a fluff. The line is her way of reclaiming her identity as a Chinese woman. It's detailed choreography like this that pushes my appreciation for films to a new level. Whenever an Asian game appears in Hollywood movies, even in good films, I still get angry. Just the way they play stones in Knives Out pisses me off to no end. But everything about this game in Crazy Riichi Asians, from the way Michelle Yeoh counts tiles by cutting them in fours, to the way people talk over the table, is incredibly accurate. This movie gets Mahjong. Yes, it's a silly rom-com movie. Yes, it makes the dumb mistakes of having 5 concealed North tile, which is impossible. But I still have to applaud the film for its attempt at tying the game to its narrative. Not just in the abstract, but down to individual steps. This whole game is less than 5 minutes long, yet it is so filled with details that nearly everyone will miss. That is some dedication. So yeah, I'm going to say it. Crazy Riichi Asians, better than you think. Oh, we have to do this too.
The sign.